Hi friends, this is Yamini and I welcome you back to my channel, The Saffron Box. Today in the Rahu and Ketu series, I shall be talking about the placement of Rahu in the 6th house and Ketu in the 12th house. Now, this is called the 6 and 12 axis for Rahu and Ketu. So, what does Rahu do in the 6th and what does Ketu do in the 12th house? To understand this, we need to understand the 6th house and the 12th house first. But before that as well, we need to quickly understand the fact that Rahu and Ketu are shadow planets. They are Chaya Grahas. They do not have any physical identity of their own. So what happens is, say Rahu is placed in the 6th house. Rahu absorbs the qualities of the 6th house. It absorbs the qualities of the sign which is falling in the 6th house, and then of course the planets which are there in the 6th house. So say Rahu is in the 6th house in the sign of Taurus. Okay, so Rahu absorbs the qualities of the 6th house, the qualities of Taurus, and say Moon is placed along in the 6th house in the sign of Taurus. So Rahu shall also be playing out the qualities of Moon as well, right? So shadow planets have to do that. That's how they function. That's how they give results, right? So now to understand the placement of Rahu in the 6th and Ketu in the 12th, we need to understand what these houses are. The 6th house is the house which represents our health, our daily work routine, our dietary habits, our personal habits, right? Our daily work routine, as I mentioned, our opposition, right? So what all opposition are you dealing with? When I say opposition, broadly, if you have to understand this, you can talk about anything which is obstructing your growth, okay? Anything which is opposing you, which is not for you, which is against you, okay? So anything like your diseases are, obviously when you get some disease, it's a hindrance in your physical ability, it's a hindrance to anything which you want to do, it inhibits you from what you want to do, right? Diseases, debts, right? Any kind of loans or debts, money which you owe, which you owe to other people, that also affects you. Why? Because that very money could have been used by you. It affects your spending capability. It affects your bank balance because you have to give a particular amount of money back to someone, right? Enemies of course try to stop your growth. They oppose your growth, right? Then any kind of litigations, they would also pose a challenge to you, right? So they would not let you grow the way you want because you may be spending that much time, money and effort dealing with that litigation, dealing with the court case, right? So 6th house deals with such things. 6th house deals with all those things which are trying to inhibit you from where you want to go, from how you want to grow. But at the same point in time, 6th house is a Upche Sthan. It's a growth house among the other houses, right? So as I've mentioned, 3, 6, 10 and 11 are growth houses. So the 6th house shows you obstacles so that you can deal with those obstacles and carry on, deal with the disease and move on, deal with the enmity, deal with the litigation and move on, conquer it, right? So and thereafter see more growth in your life, right? So 6th house is a placement of Rahu. In fact, in the 6th house shows that you have these karmic debts towards these things, right? So you might be dealing with a particular disease or some accident or injuries or litigation. It shows some karmic debt because Rahu and Ketu again are karmic planets, karmic indicators, right? So it shows that there was something which had to be done, something which was unfinished, which you have to focus on in this life. Now when I'm talking about all these indications, say for example when I'm talking about disease, it could be that one suffers from disease or any kind of ill health themselves, or it also could be that you deal with the disease by way of being a medical professional. Okay, you could be someone in the medical field trying to deal with that disease, okay, working on that disease, right, helping others get through or get rid of that particular disease. So in any which way, whether it is disease, whether it is litigation, whether it is some sort of enmity or court cases, whatever, one tends to ultimately deal with such significations when Rahu is in the 6th especially. Okay, so it's a karmic pattern which you have to go through. Rahu will always keep pulling you towards all these things, right? Also, the 6th house is the time period which is there just before you get married, or we can say that 6th house represents the age when you're about in your early 20s. Okay, so Rahu in the 6th shows that you could be going through some struggle during that period if Rahu is not so well placed. Okay, so there could be some struggle, there could be some inhibitions, there could be some opposition during that particular time phase, right? So one has to be careful about that. Also, when I talk about Rahu in the 6th, it gives a person the tendency to handle opposition well if Rahu is well placed, right? So in fact, a lot of politicians tend to have Rahu in the 6th because they are able to maneuver their opposition well, they are able to handle the opposition well, right? So it's a growth house, and once they handle it well, they see growth, right? So Rahu in the 6th depends, the fruits of this particular placement depends totally on whether Rahu is operating on a higher plane or not. If it's operating on a higher plane, you use the same energy in dealing with things positively, taking them in your stride and then moving on, growing yourself. But if Rahu is placed in the lower plane, if you're using the energies in a not so good manner, you could be stuck in those things. Your debts could increase, your diseases could increase, you could become rash on the road, accidents could happen, right? You could be involved in more and more litigation. Okay, so that is the karmic lesson in our lifetimes, that one has to deal with these things and move on, finish the karmic debt over there, right? Now at the same point in time, Ketu in the 12th. The 12th house indicates isolation, it indicates loss, wastage, spending, expenditure, right? So how do you spend? What do you spend? Okay, all this are indicated by the 12th house. As I said, 12th house is also the house of moksha. Okay, because first house starts your journey and 12th house ends it. Okay, so 12th house is the moksha sthan. It represents ashrams, isolations totally. It also represents jails, imprisonment, hidden enemies, right? So 6th house will talk about enemies which are right in front of you. You can identify who is opposing you. But 12th house deals with hidden enemies, those who don't show their faces, those who work in secrecy against you, right? So Ketu being here is again a placement which needs to be handled very maturely, right? Because one could always be entangled in in things which make you isolated. Okay, so you could get some punishment, one could get some punishment by way of nature only. You do something, you ultimately end up being isolated for a while. Now that isolation could be hospital, that isolation could be imprisonment, that isolation could be by choice in some ashram. Okay, but Ketu in the 12th house is a good placement, because Ketu anyways is the planet which represents moksha, and 12th house is also talking about moksha only. So Ketu in the 12th is a good placement provided you deal with those things maturely. Okay, and Rahu in the 6th house is again a good placement provided you use the energy of Rahu in dealing with the 6th house matters well, with maturity, with a lot of thinking, with a lot of thought, because Rahu can take you either this way or that way, right? So Rahu in the 6th house, as I said, it's a Upchesthan. It can make you use your energies very well if you want to do so, right? So this is a little tricky placement, but at the same point in time I would say that it's a good placement. It helps you deal with your karmic debts. It helps you deal with your whatever good or bad karma well, right? So that's about it as of now for Rahu and Ketu in the 6th and 12th houses. In the next video in this series, I shall be talking about Rahu in the 7th and Ketu in the 1st house. Okay, and the placement of Rahu and Ketu in 7 and 1 axis deals with you and your spouse, deals with you and your marriage. So we shall see how that pans out in the next video. Till then, do not forget to keep watching the videos on the Saffron Box, and if you haven't subscribed, do subscribe and do share the videos. Thank you so much.